fellow snows, hoes, ugly blokes, and millennial jokes, and welcome to the Bastards of Gaming Podcast, episode number 17. I'm your host with the most, Xizor, joined by my co-host, the maple syrup to my French toast, the Atreus to my Kratos, Center!
I started packing up a bunch of my video game stuff because I'm going to be moving in the next couple months. And it's such a pain in the ass because of all the cables and everything has to go together, and you have the boxes for the games and the controllers need to be wrapped up, and it's such a pain in the ass. And I know you recently moved. And
yeah, I recently went through this whole thing, and
within
my setup is like super complicated, and breaking it down and putting it all back together and making sure everything works. Because for the listeners out there that haven't seen my setup, it's pretty elaborate. I have like a whole computer that runs next to two smaller entertainment centers with like a almost retro sort of station with older consoles and a 3D TV and then a 4K TV, and then my computer also runs to the TV, and everything's hooked up through a sound bar, even my computer. And it's just like all this stuff, and then I try to hide the wires, and yeah, it's just this whole elaborate thing with lights and all this other stuff. And so, yeah, breaking that down and moving it was just like, it took me an entire day basically to reset up this room here with all my stuff in it. So I'm sure yours is a lot less complicated, but man, I know that pain of moving.
Yeah, mine's not on any level like yours. Like, I have a kid, I don't have money, I don't have space to turn my room into an arcade basically. It's just really simple setup. I basically use this like weird shoe rack thing that I found. It looks like a shoe rack if you look at it, but with everything on it, it doesn't. Because I wanted something that had like a multi-tiered shelf unit type thing, and everything was super expensive. I'm like, I'm not going to pay that much. So I'm going to buy a $40 like wire shoe rack that looks kind of cool and just put all my systems on it that I possibly can and just stack them up.
You'll have to show me what that looks like because I can't really picture it in my mind.
Yeah, I'll have to take a picture and show you. But yours looks like a fucking arcade, basically.
I don't know, not really. I mean, it's just like a weirdly designed fucking thing that I spent months basically picking out different parts and stuff like that because I wanted it all to look a certain way and function a certain way. And because you see a lot of those things online, like on YouTube and stuff, everyone like posting pictures of their dope gaming setup, and normally it sort of just revolves around the PC, like your PC setup and stuff like that. But I wanted to incorporate all my different consoles and stuff like that all into this one sort of elongated entertainment system, as it were, I guess. So yeah, I just had a very specific design, so it was really hard to sort of figure out how I wanted to do everything. Like I literally had to almost design it in a way, like picking out specific furniture and how I would run cables, the length of certain cables, the LED lighting that I would use, how much I would need of that and stuff. So it was this whole process that went on for 6 months or more, like in preparation and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, I've always wanted a man cave. That would have been my dream for many years, is to have like this dope gaming setup. And so I finally, after many years of collecting little things and planning it out, finally made it happen a couple of years ago. So I'm still happy about it. It's one of those things where I come home, every day from a shitty day, and I walk into my sort of man cave gaming setup. And I'm like, yeah, this was all worth it. It's all worth it to come home to this shit every day.
Yeah, yours is pretty intense. I might do something better when I move, but I'm always like relegated to these like small little 8x8 rooms in my abode because my wife doesn't want to see this shit. She's like, you can't, like, don't display any of your stuff unless it's inside this room. Like, no pictures, no figures, no games, no nothing.
Yeah, no, that's usually what happens when you get into some kind of marriage situation. Okay, so topic of the week this week, which is going to be an ongoing thing, multiple topics we'll do over the course of time, tackling the best and worst games of specific years. Now, we're starting off with 2018. I don't know if we're going to sort of work our way backwards, but that's sort of the plan right now. Just pick random years or whatever and pick the best and worst games and sort of highlight them and talk about them. And after that, we're moving into the what the fuck we're playing this week, which consists of What Remains of Edith Finch, Ori and the Blind Forest, Dragon Quest XI, and Borderlands 2. This will be followed up, as always, by questions and answers. And just to let everyone know before we get started here, we are available on all free podcasting platforms such as iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, and tons more. Just search for Bastards of Gaming. And if we're not on a platform of your choice, let us know and we'll make that happen for ya.
Hey, you Flyboys, it's your favorite Twitch streamer, Battle Arena, here to tell you about some amazing new collector's items for the hardest of the hardcore gamers that I'm selling in my eShop. I know some of my fans love when I show off my sweet little feetsies during my streams, so lately I've been scraping the bottoms of my feet with a peg-ed foot file and pouring the delicate skin flakes into a little baggie, so now you'll be able to buy and collect your favorite streamer's foot powder right from her adorable little tootsies straight to you. I'm selling this limited supply Precious Gamer Goddess Tier extract in half gram, and 8-ball size quantities, so you can break out and snort some fat rails of Battle Arena dust at your next all-night gaming session with the boys, and ingest yourself with the essence of my amplitude and strength. Panty raid time! Because I'm also selling used pairs of my panties and socks for you sneaky feet geeks that I specifically take off and place in a sealed Ziploc bag after my morning workouts at the gym to preserve the ultimate Battle Arena distillation for your sensual scented needs. I know some of you crazy boys keep saying how you'd love to smell my feet in the chat. Well, now is your chance. Just don't do anything silly pervy with my panties, like wear them on your head like a weird adorning headdress, or make some kind of Battle Arena soup with my socks using this next product. Tee-hee. So sometimes after an intense 8-hour streaming session on Twitch, I get a little sweaty around the booby area. So when I'm done putting on a show for all you sweat-thirsty boys, I take my damp bra off and wring it out into a bucket. And I've been bottling up the contents just for my amazing heartthrob fans so they can smell how much work I put into entertaining and pleasing them every single day with my Moxie Rena milk. And after squeezing out the candy snack booby juice, I like to take a nice hot bath and get good and clean. And now, for a limited time, you can also buy 3 versions of my authentic, naturally preserved bathwater taken straight from the tub to your fanboy chub. The first is just basic bathwater bottled up mere moments after I exit the tub, called Battlefina, and after a couple of hours of refrigeration, it can rejuvenate and restore your gaming skills. The second is a special sample collected after I shave my legs, pits, and naughty bits called Fuzzy Rena, which contains some floaty follicle pulp that refreshes your mind and quenches your virgin thirst. And my high and angelic transcendent, only available for pre-order third bathwater concentrate called Eurofina contains my bathwater, some post-shave pulp, and also a small amount of my gamer girl pee. What? Included with each beloved purchase of a product from my store is a Willy Wonka style voucher, and one lucky fan out there will receive a Golden Rena grand prize where they will be flown out to meet me at a secure location and have me eat any food of their choice, and then I'll chew it up and spit it back into their mouth like a mama feeding her baby bird. Can't you just imagine my gooey food sliding down your throat, breathing life into your poor incel soul and giving you purpose? I can! So go to battlearena.net/bastardsofgaming for 10% off your first order, and maybe you'll be a lucky Golden Rena winner. That's battlearena.net/bastardsofgaming for 10% off the greatest gifts I could ever give back to my fans. Bye-bye now.
Our topic for this week is the best and worst games of 2018. And as Xizor said earlier, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of these episodes. We're going to go back in time to 2017, 16, who knows, maybe back to the 90s. We'll see how far we can get. And we're going to detail all the games that were like the hot shit when they came out, all the games that we got to play, some of the games that we were going to play but didn't because it ended up being a piece of garbage. So we'll probably just go chronologically through each year and just list off the ones that we want to talk about. And the first one is a much looked forward to game by many people that love this series, Monster Hunter World. So I remember pre-ordering this, and I've never been a huge Monster Hunter fan. I played them in the past, and they're very grindy. And I figured, okay, this looks beautiful. Let's give this one a go. Let's see if I can get back into it. I'm going to give it a really good effort. And I basically lasted a week and a half before I was like, fuck this. This is too much grind. It's just so super repetitive, really hard. The people you play with are idiots. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the game loop at all.
Yeah, I picked it up because I had a best friend that was a diehard Monster Hunter fan, and I have avoided this series for a long time because it's been trapped on handhelds for a while, like PSP and stuff like that. So I never really wanted to play it unless it could be, on a proper console, because I think like the last 3 or 4 have all been on like the Wii and like DS or some kind of like Nintendo handheld and stuff like that. So this was the first one that's been brought to consoles. And so I was like, okay, it came out in January of last year. At a time when nothing else was really going on. So I was like, okay, let's give this a real shot here. Because I knew my good friend would bring in some of his buddies, so I would have people to co-op with. So I got it on the PS4, and like you, yeah, I lasted about a couple weeks. I appreciate what this game is doing. I'm just not really a fan of a lot of the sort of Japanese developed games these days. I've shifted my love and passion from sort of Japanese games, like when I used to be in love with Capcom and Konami and Square and stuff like that, and games that they make over there, just their design choices and stuff like that just don't really jive with me anymore. So Monster Hunter's cool, I appreciate it, but it wasn't really doing much for me. And so, yeah, I kind of bailed on it a couple weeks in. So overall, just it's a good game. And oddly enough, it sold really well for Capcom, which it should have seemed like a no-brainer that you would have brought this to consoles a long time ago, because it turns out it's actually the highest selling Capcom game of all time, even more than Street Fighter and other stuff. So Monster Hunter World was a good decision for them, and we're probably going to see more of these. But yeah, it's just not really a game for me.
So for the people listening that don't know what Monster Hunter is, basically it's just a game where it's kind of like an RPG where you go into like an environment and there's dinosaurs and birds and like raptors and like all these crazy monsters and stuff, and you hunt them down, you skin them, and you use their like flesh and bones and stuff to build armor, weapons, whatever. And there's different character builds with different weapons. So you can have like two-handed sword, or you can have a gun, or you can have a bow, or like you can dual wield. There's like all these different options. And on paper it sounds like a lot of fun, but it's a huge grind, because later on when you're killing like the bigger boss monsters, it takes a lot of coordinated effort to take this thing down. And it can be fun. By yourself it's not, but you need like a core group of people to tackle this thing and just kick the shit out of it. And some of these things take like an hour to take down of whacking it. And
yeah,
the gameplay mechanics are weird in the sense that like when you have a two-handed sword, it's not like you're just whacking the hell out of it with a two-handed sword. There's kind of like a lead time to when you're going to swing. So there's like animations that kind of get in the way to add like strategy. So you kind of have to start swinging before you know the monster's going to be there. Otherwise the monster could just kick you and you go rolling away. So it's almost like it has like a Dark Souls type of thing, like where it's difficult to land attacks and stuff. It's a little more realistic. I just didn't like the grind, and I didn't like the tediousness of it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, the game is super deep. Like, there's a lot of skill to it, and there's a lot of depth to it. I appreciate that. But yes, like you said, it's sort of like a Japanese sort of design philosophy of a lot of these action games, where it's all about committing to attacks and swings, especially with like melee stuff. I did find some of the combat and stuff fun. I mean, there's so many different weapons that you can use and master, and yeah, it always felt good to like rodeo one of those big monsters and be on his back, like stabbing the shit out of it. That was always my favorite thing, is to try to jump off something and land on the back and just stab the fuck out of them. But yeah, I mean, great game. Like, I don't want to take anything away from it for sure. Like I said, it just didn't jive with me totally.
It looks really nice. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So final verdict on that?
I mean, it's a go. I mean, it's free on Game Pass right now, so you can't really go wrong with that. But yeah, I mean, it depends. Play it and see what you think. And I don't know. For me, it's a no, but it's not because it's a bad game. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't for me either. I gave it a shot, and I play grindy games all the time. It didn't really resonate with me at all.
So I threw in the Shadow of the Colossus remake. I don't know if it's worth talking about. It's technically not a game that came out last year, but we did get the remake, so I didn't know if you wanted to mention that at all. I mean, it was a great remake. It's the same game, nothing really new, just updated for modern consoles. But you played this again too, right?
Yeah, I played it again. It's like you said, same game, same mechanics, very clunky. It's early 2000s type of gameplay, very stiff. It's still a great game. I wish they made like a sequel to it because it would look and play amazing, in my opinion. But it's still a solid game. I don't know how many years later, like 16, 17 years later.
Yeah, this is like the second time I've rebought it. Like I rebought the 3D version on the PS3, and yeah, it's a fun game to play every 5 years or so. It still holds up. I think the controls could be a little bit better, even though they updated them slightly. That's really my only complaint. But a lot of the sort of Team Eco games are notorious for having these weird Japanese controls where you sort of jump with triangle or just weird stuff that doesn't really make sense. Not sort of modern conventional control schemes. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's still a great game, worth picking up. Totally recommend. How about you? I'm sure you recommend it also.
I definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Just the atmosphere and the visuals, the idea of it is so cool. Yeah, I love it.
So next we come to Metal Gear Survive, which, oh man, have you played this? Because it's on Game Pass.
I want to try it out, but it just looks stupid.
Yeah, I started it last night, and man, there's just so much going on here. Like, it takes a fucking hour or more just to get rolling, like, fully into this game, and they're still, like, dropping tutorials on you. There's a lot to it. So, I mean, the game is this weird spin-off from the Metal Gear series. Now that Hideo Kojima is gone from Konami after that falling out, this was sort of Konami trying to cash in one last time on the Metal Gear name. So it's not made by the original creator, and this is a game that no one asked for. It's completely different from the normal Metal Gear games. I mean, it has a lot of the mechanics from 5 as far as just general movement and stealth and stuff like that. But it's basically this tower defense sort of action, survival, horror, scavenging for resources and building stuff. It just has all these little layered on mechanics. But the sort of premise for the story is that this is like takes place after the events of Ground Zeroes, and you create this custom character that was a part of some elite forces group that, like, off-screen fired the killing blow on an enemy that was about to fire a rocket at Snake's chopper at the end of that sequence as he was escaping. And then a giant wormhole appears over the base, and your character was almost sucked through it, but it closed and chopped off his arm, which regrows because he's now infected with some organism from this alternate fucking universe or planet or wherever called Dite, where dead humans become zombie-like things called wanderers. So of course he's the prime candidate to be sent through to the other side. He wakes up in Dite. I don't know, you have your always in your ear companion a la Otacon named Good Luck. But yeah, I got through the first sequences of it, like kind of in true Metal Gear fashion. It's a huge like opening sequence of just story preamble bullshit, and a lot of it's just like, I wish they would have just wrapped it up in a few minutes because it's not interesting. I guess they just wanted to somehow try and justify this game like story wise, but it's honestly just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And yeah, I haven't played it enough to really get a sense. Like, I'm just getting into the meat of the game now, but first impressions of it are not very good because, like I said, this is not anything that any Metal Gear fan wanted or asked for, and it just seems like a terrible way to tarnish the name of Metal Gear with this fucking abomination of a game.
The next game we were all kind of excited for because it has some Left 4 Dead feel to it, was Warhammer 40k Vermintide 2. And basically what this game is like, it's like a co-op survival game where you have to stick together with your team to make it to the end of a level. And when you're in the level, particularly in this game, you have like these vermin rat things that are just constantly being thrown at you and you're killing them. And then there's different like special rats, and some of them will like grab you and pull you away. Other ones pounce on top of you. Very, very similar to the Left 4 Dead series. It's almost like a reskin.
Yeah, it's basically Warhammer Left 4 Dead. I mean, it plays exactly the same way, pretty much.
But it has like RPG elements, so you can get weapons and you can like craft some things, like very basic stuff. It's very light, and you have like 2 builds per character type. So I like those aspects of it. Our time with it, I wasn't in love with the game. I thought it was okay. It felt like you had to grind a lot to bump up the difficulty to have more fun with it, because it was kind of too easy on normal. And I don't know if we ever made it to a harder difficulty, because you have to be a certain level and your character has to have so much HP or whatever it was to make it to the next thing. I got burned out on it pretty quick, even though it was an okay game. Just I wasn't in love with it.
Yeah, well, it's a perfectly fine game, and the only problem was that it didn't have the multiplayer aspect that would have sort of given this game life, I think, which they finally added or are about to add, which I talked about on the podcast a couple weeks ago, which would give it more of a Left 4 Dead style versus mode, I think. So I'm going to have to check in with that and see if this will breathe some new life into it. But yeah, it was fun. It was like the first day I played it, I was like, holy shit, this is really fun. And I played the shit out of it. And I was like, yeah, this is a good like Left 4 Dead substitute in a way. But after a couple of days of just hacking up fucking thousands of goddamn rats, I was kind of over it. Like it just like kind of died very quickly for me. Like after, because it was me, you, and Rhodey that played this for like 3 days or something like that. And after that, I was just like, all right, I've hacked up enough of these fucking rats. I'm kind of done with this. But still have to give the game credit. It is a pretty good game. It's a pretty fun game. It's worth checking out. It is also on Game Pass right now. So I don't know what's your final verdict on this.
Actually, I think they took it out of Game Pass, or it's about to leave.
Okay.
It hasn't been in for very long. I guess it was just kind of to snag people into buying it, because it probably wasn't doing well to begin with. So my verdict is it's fine. Like to me, it's like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Like it's fun for an afternoon or two. I wouldn't say it's something that I would want to play over a long period of time. The servers might be barren now. There's probably nobody playing. But my favorite things were the horrible and ridiculous things the characters would say. What was the thing that, I think it was your guy, he had like the top hat, he was like the witch hunter. It was about like falling, and the way he spoke.
Watch your footing, or you'll never be heard from again.
So the next game is a game that I recently just beat this year. It came out last year. It's Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. As I said in the podcast previously, it's a really good Japanese RPG with a lot of different mechanics going on in it. Like you're leveling up, you're doing battles. It has like a kingdom builder where you pick and build buildings like shops, weapon shops and stuff. And then you have to recruit people in the world to come run those shops so you can like research more stuff like extra XP after battles, more money, all that sort of stuff. And it also has like an overworld army mini game where you kind of walk around on the overworld and you have like 4 different groups surrounding you, because you're like the main character is the king basically, and you just go around and you take out like other little armies and stuff to just take over land, and like you get money and whatever from it. But I would say it's a pretty solid game. Like I mentioned before, it's completely different from the very first game, which was more like collecting monsters, Pokemon. Like this one's just more of a traditional Japanese RPG. I definitely recommend it though. I'd give it a good 8 out of 10. It took me about 50 hours to beat it, and I did a little extra stuff afterwards. But for a game that's been out for a year and a half and you can get it for like $15-20 now, it's like a solid time sink.
All right, so the next thing on the list is Sea of Thieves. Now, this game was a Rare-made game on the Xbox. Now, Rare was a beloved studio back in the day, especially back in the height of the Nintendo days, like Nintendo 64 and stuff. They made a lot of classic games that people love, and Microsoft ended up buying them up during the 360 generation, I believe it was. And so far, they've never really put out anything of worth since. So this was the most interesting thing Rare had done in a while. And there's not a whole lot of pirate games out there. So this was more cutesy and fun. This wasn't like, you know, sort of a Assassin's Creed style, more realistic game. It had like the sort of Rare charm to it where it's like lots of cartoony, cutesy characters and stuff like that. But this looked fun. Everyone was excited about it. The only thing is like, you know, we didn't know if it was going to be good, but thankfully this is when sort of Game Pass was getting rolling and Microsoft was just putting their big AAA first party games on Game Pass. And you could basically just play them for the cost of a month of Game Pass. So this is where we all picked it up and started playing it, and where we, at least me and Cynthia, started subscribing to Game Pass on a monthly basis. But the game came out, and to this day, that first night we played, that first night of playing this game was one of the best fucking gaming experiences I've ever had. Like, it's the most memorable and hilarious times with a game that I can remember. And so, like, after the first night, I was really kind of high on this game. I was like, man, this might be like a surprise hit. And then sort of the following couple days, it was like, there's not really a whole lot here. This is kind of bare bones, and there's no compelling quest lines or objectives. It's very straightforward. The funnest things about it really are just sort of sailing on the seas and everyone sort of working the different parts of the ship to change based on the changing wind, and someone's downstairs looking at the map, telling you which direction to go. And there's just a lot to that, and that part's kind of fun, especially when you get into these battles with other players and their ships. You're firing cannons at each other and trying to shoot at each other and jumping off and jumping on their ship and having sword fights and stuff like that. That part is kind of cool, but it's just not super deep. Nothing about the game is super deep. It just felt like this was a foundation for what should have been a great game. It's just like almost the shell of the skeleton of what could have been a really fun game. But I'm pretty sure you have most of the same thoughts as me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it's the foundation for something amazing. And all the fun that we had with it was because we created that fun. Like throwing someone in the brig and telling them we won't let you out until you take your clothes off. You know, like stuff like that. Like, we're screwing around with people, and then we scuttled the ship. So we basically sunk the ship while the person was in the brig, and then we busted out our instruments and played them like a dirge as it sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Like, that shit was hilarious.
But like you said, it seemed like the idea was that you would sort of make your own fun with it in a way. Like, I think they wanted a lot of streamers to show off this game and make it look fun for everybody, because, you know, streamers and their buddies getting around doing silly stuff, but that's all fine and good, but you need some other game stuff to do on top of that. You know, like, once you do all the silly little things, then you're like, I don't know, I guess we'll just sail around some more and fight some skeletons and get some treasure. But for what? You know, there was never any really good sort of carrot on a stick with this game. Like, really no thing that you're sort of grinding for or shooting for, so there wasn't any reason to just keep playing it other than like hoping that you could find your own fun from it. And that came with playing with friends. And so, yeah, I don't know, I can't even imagine why you would play this game like by yourself and stuff like that. You know,
it's too hard by yourself.
Yeah,
you couldn't really do it. It'd be a pain. And it's mainly a PvP game. Like, the whole premise of the game is to like attack other people, steal their chests, because if they're doing little side quests, which are all basically fetch quests, if they have side quests and they complete them, they get like they get a treasure chest, and they got to bring it back to an outpost, and you can wait at the outpost and try and like steal it from them and all this other stuff. Like, that aspect's fine, but it takes you so long to get those chests sometimes that if somebody stole shit from you, you'd be pissed. You'd be mad about it because it takes effort. It's just, I don't know.
But it also feels so fucking sweet when you just gank somebody's shit and you know you just ruin their night.
Sure, and we did that a couple times. And I don't know, I feel like we saw all we needed to see. And we put quite a few hours. We even tried it again after it was updated a bunch, and it still lacked content. It was just fetch quests. That's it. So Sea of Thieves.
I don't know, all the fun could be had in a day or two with this game, and then that's it. Move on.
Yeah, it's a shame. The next game I was following for a very long time because I've been a Dynasty Warriors fan for 2 decades, basically. So Dynasty Warriors 9, it was breaking the mold of the 1 versus 1,000 type of beat-em-up game. And that's exactly what Dynasty Warriors is. You pick a hero, which is like Dynasty Warriors is like a Chinese story based on the Romance of Three Kingdoms stuff, and it's like a historical thing. And you pick one of those characters like Guan Yu or Lu Bu or somebody, and you basically go out and just murder the majority of China. And it's fun. I've always found it fun. All the characters are a little bit different, but the premise is just to keep button mashing and murder shit. And with the new Dynasty Warriors, they were breaking the mold a bit by going away from the level-based stuff where you're just dumped into a level, you got a bunch of objectives, you go in, you kill people, and then it's over. This was more of like there's a world map, and you were taking over bases, you were pushing the front line forward and jumping over walls, going into different cities and stuff and assassinating counselor or the king there or whatever it is. So it kind of had some next gen ideas finally after more than 8 reiterations. It was more like 20 reiterations of this game, of it being the same thing every fucking year. They were kind of moving it forward with some new ideas, and it just didn't work. It was just a half-baked idea. It was like, let's just take the original Dynasty Warriors, throw it on a big map, and we'll just throw a bunch of stuff like a checklist. That just like when we always complain about the checklist simulator games, like that's what this game turned into in a way. It was just, there's a bunch of shit on the map. You collect stuff for no reason, expand, and keep checking things off your list, and eventually you'll beat the game. And it flopped. I didn't like it. People hated this fucking game. It's got tons of glitches. So nice try. 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, I can't believe you're still playing these games.
I love these games.
I bailed on Dynasty.
Guilty pleasure.
I mean, I guess. I know there's some people that still love them. Yeah, I bailed on the series like on the PlayStation 2. I was done with it by like 4 or 5. I'm just like, I can't do this same thing anymore. And I appreciate they sort of tried to update it, make it more modern with like these open world things. But yeah, I looked at some of the gameplay. I'll peek in on this series every now and then to see what's going on. But man, it's just so many dated mechanics and design philosophies. And man, I just can't believe people still play this, but more power to you. So moving on, the next thing that we both played last year was a game called A Way Out. Now, this was made by a guy called Joseph Ferris. This was another one of those EA originals. It's the second game directed by this guy who came from filmmaking. Now, he had done Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, which I thought was a really special and cool game. Have you ever played Brothers?
I did. I couldn't get into it, though. And then I just played something else, unfortunately.
I don't know. I just highly recommend that game. I'm not going to get off on a tangent about that. But so, yeah, A Way Out is it's a co-op game. So it has no single player, so you would literally have to play it with a partner. Now, you could do this split screen local co-op, or you could play with someone online. And what was unique about it is you would buy one copy, and then a friend could download this like sort of free version of it, and they could invite you to their game, and then they could basically play it with you co-op for free. So me and Cynthia did this last year, and it was a pretty fun experience. We beat it over the course of like 2 nights. It's an action adventure game, like third person, but there's a lot of different levels and different mechanics and stuff like that. Like one player will be doing one thing and the screen will split apart while the other character is doing another thing, and you're kind of working together. And there's a little bit of gunfighting here, some action sequences, some chase sequences, and it was kind of like a sort of low-rent co-op, Uncharted almost in a way. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was kind of like a unique and special game. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I liked it too. It was fun, very story-driven. You got to know the characters really well. It's kind of like a movie in a way. You played it out. You got to do some fun stuff in it. I liked it. I liked it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, we sort of solved the mystery of what was going to happen at the end by the time we got there. And I won't spoil the end for people that haven't played it, but the way it sort of wraps up, even though you can kind of see it coming, it's really cool the way they sort of have you playing co-op the whole game, and they sort of twist that around at the end. It's kind of fun. So yeah, I definitely recommend A Way Out. I'm not sure what it goes for these days. We played it on Xbox, but I think it's available for pretty much everything. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. And the game I played last year after this was Far Cry 5. Now, speaking of co-op, this was my favorite thing about Far Cry 5. As listeners know, I'm a huge fan of the Far Cry series, been there from day one, love it, but I'm starting to get a little bit burned out on it. The sort of open world first person shooter Far Cry shtick is getting a little bit old to me. But the only thing that sort of pulled me through 5 last year was the actual co-op, where you could play the entire game co-op, and that was kind of a unique thing to a Far Cry game, because in the past they've had like co-op modes that were sort of separate from the single player. A lot of them weren't very good. And so this was the first time you could play the entire game co-op, and it was a lot of fun. Like, me and my best friend always make up dumb shit to do in games like this. So we had a whole night or two where our thing was just using melee weapons only, and they have so it was all melee weapons and like shovels, and they had this like shovel rocket launcher, and so that's what we would use to fight all the enemy encampments and stuff. We were running, throwing bats, throwing shovels, then like picking them back up, using them, swinging in, fucking bonking the dude over the head, knocking him out. And that was like the most fun I had with that game, was like me and my best friend making up dumb shit to do. But yeah, the story was pretty stupid. A lot of things about that game, I thought this was just one of the weaker Far Cry games outside of the co-op stuff. And it's not a bad game, but like I said, I'm I'm on the downtrend with Far Cry, and they're really gonna have to reinvent it soon to keep me interested in playing this series. But have you ever checked it out?
No, because like I burned out a long time ago on Far Cry and a lot of Ubisoft games, and I will play it. It's just all the Far Cries since about 3 have been so similar, and there's been kind of like DLC side type of Far Cries that come out, and you're doing the same shit again. It's just I'm not ready for it.
It's just this is my style of game. Like I love this style of game, like open world, first person shooter stuff. But yeah, I'm just kind of burned out on Far Cry. So after this, we play what is one of my favorite games of last year, an incredible game, God of War for the PS4. Now this was, Sony Santa Monica taking God of War and basically reinventing it, which is a thing that rarely happens in games. I don't know too many other examples of people sort of flipping a game's design and mechanics on its head and coming out the other end with something that was even better than the original games. And so I haven't beaten all the God of War games, but I've played them all. And so it's a series that I enjoyed for what it was. It was just Kratos being super mad, running through these very linear stages and a lot of sort of action combo combat stuff, very brutal, ripping off people's heads and cutting people up. And it was really fun. I enjoyed the series for what it was. But man, who would have known that if you would have taken God of War and made it this really tight, almost over the shoulder, camera zoomed in more third person action game where you have a son now and he's along for the ride, and they didn't ruin it with making it feel awful that you have this sort of character that you have to take care of and that tags along with you the whole game. It definitely wasn't a kind of like a babysitting game where you're going to have this kid with you all the time. He's constantly going to be getting stuck on things or going down in combat, but that's not the case, and you actually sort of have these little things you can do to control him and his actions in combat. But yeah, you never have to worry about your son, and they move into a different sort of mythology in this one instead of the Greek mythology with the old ones, and then they sort of move into Norse mythology. So just everything about this game is totally different from the original God of Wars. But man, this is like an incredible game, and it's so good. If you have a PlayStation 4, like, you have to buy this game. Like, it's so fucking good, and I can't wait till you play it so we can talk about it on the podcast, because I think you're gonna like it. It does this really unique thing where the camera never cuts, so there's no cutscenes. Everything's in engine, and they just found a way to sort of always pan the camera. So you can imagine how difficult that would be when you're doing some of the larger boss fights. I mean, some of the stuff is just like this weird Dragon Ball Z, like superhero fight sequences, and the camera never cuts away. It always finds unique ways to follow the action, and it's just a very fucking unique game that's just incredible top to bottom. The voice acting, the direction, the story, it's got everything for me. The combat was great, felt awesome. I just love it so much.
I actually just picked it up during the Prime days that happened the last 2 days. I got it for 18 Canadian. So it's coming in the mail. And once I'm done with the games I'm playing right now, I'm probably going to play that next.
Awesome. So moving on from there, we've got State of Decay 2. Now, this was a game that's another first-party Microsoft game. It's a smaller game, not sort of their AAA output, but this was made by a smaller team. They made the first State of Decay probably, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I played that on PC back in the day, and Microsoft sort of acquired them after this. But State of Decay 2 was supposed to be this big online co-op MMO style game. That was always their vision for it. And the first game sort of had a great foundation. You're like, I like these sort of survival mechanics. You have a base and other people like that are in your sort of outpost that you can switch to and play. So there's not really a main character per se. You're just kind of playing different sort of NPCs that you control, and you can switch between them, and they can perma-die. And so it's a zombie game, and it's more about survival and like kind of base building. You have to venture out, you got cars and stuff. You got to worry about gas. You go out and clear out these hordes and different things. It's a fun game for a couple days, but I was really looking forward to State of Decay 2. Hoping that it would sort of deliver on what they had always talked about they wanted to do with the series. But like I said, the game was fun for a couple of nights, and then I was over it once I got through it. But what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I feel like it has a lot of potential. You know, like, again, it's another one of those games where it's a sandbox game like Sea of Thieves, and there's a good foundation for something much greater. Did we have fun with it? I believe we did. We had lots of laughs and, like, did stuff, and technically we beat it. It's just, you end up doing the same shit over and over again until eventually either it gets too difficult, because if you take too much time in the game, the zombies will build up too much and become too difficult to handle, and you'll just end up being overwhelmed and dying. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. Like, we're on a timer, kind of, unless we can keep them at bay and go around and just kind of exterminate the one area or two areas that are getting out of control. But it just has a whole bunch of mechanics and stuff that are really fun, but it just, again, falls flat. It's just a great idea that didn't see itself through to the very end. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you have Game Pass, it's on there. Like I said, I enjoyed the shit out. The first day I was playing it, I played it for, like, I swear to God, 12 hours straight. Like, that's how much I was into it. But yeah, after a couple days, I'm like, all right, I've done all this repetitive shit over and over again. I've played this game before. I know what it is. But yeah, so I don't, like, totally not recommend it. But I think it is one of the more interesting sort of zombie survival games. I think they just haven't made the one for me yet where it has all the elements I want in it.
If you have friends and you're looking for something to play this game. It's worth like a week's worth of gaming.
Yeah, for sure. So the next thing I got last year was Detroit Become Human, which is an adventure game developed by Quantic Dream. And this was for the PlayStation 4. I don't know. Have you ever played any of the Quantic Dream games like Heavy Rain and what was it, Beyond Two Souls, or what was it called? Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, I played Beyond Two Souls. I haven't played Heavy Rain. It actually comes with Detroit Become Human.
Okay.
So if I play Detroit, because it's actually free this past month, I think, on the PlayStation Plus. Yep. So it came with Heavy Rain or whatever. So I think I'm going to try Detroit out. It's like the same kind of game. Like, it's like almost like a movie game where you're walking around doing stuff, but it's very cinematic and story driven.
Yeah, so it's not very gameplay heavy. Like, it's a lot of sort of just moving characters through the environment, like picking up little things, making
adventure
dialogue choices. Well, yeah, like a lot of adventure game stuff, sort of quick time events and things like that. I've always kind of enjoyed his games, even though I don't think he's the best writer per se. And sort of this game you follow like the plot of 3 different androids. So this is like a more futuristic thing where it's the ultimate question that's been addressed in like every fucking sci-fi story to this point. So it's not even original anymore about would androids and AI, are they considered real life people and how would we treat them? And it's sort of did it in a way to spin the story as this like social question about, if we had these androids and that were working alongside us, like how would we treat them? Like, it's a little ham-fisted at times where like the androids have to ride on the back of the bus and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of people that hate them and don't want them there. And so they're doing a lot of social commentary with this game, which is, it's fine. It's cool, but it's been done before. But as far as all the Quantum Dream games I've played, I was enjoying this one the most. I've just never gone back to it and finished it. I got maybe halfway through it and I just wasn't in the mood for the game when I was playing it. So I'm probably going to go back to it hopefully sometimes here soon and wrap it up, because I usually try to play all the sort of Sony first party games. But yeah, this game is pretty good. Like I said, I haven't finished it, so I can't give a final verdict on it, but I enjoyed it, and like it's free on PlayStation Plus right now, so can't go wrong with that.
Before we get to the next game, I just want to talk about the headphones that I'm using. Don't you hate it when you've spent an hour styling your hair only to have it flattened by headphones?
Yeah, dude, I hate when I've got like a hot date lined up. I'm just trying to get a few matches in with the squad before I leave the house, and my stinking headset totally ruins my luxurious hairdo.
Well, worry no more. Beats Electronics, best known for their premium Beats by Dre headphones, has joined forces with one of the world's most successful Twitch streamers, Dr. Disrespect, to bring you a best-in-class oral experience. And I bring you the Beats by Dr. Disrespect. This beautifully designed headset uses patented, never-before-thought-of behind-the-ear technology to avoid flattening that sick flow that makes all the gaming convention lizards drip with titty sweat. They sent me a prototype to try, which is what I'm wearing right now, and let me tell you, since I've been using them, all the directions I give to my party in Minecraft reach their ears at blazing speeds and in crystal fucking clear clarity. Hey Xizor, have you seen these headphones before?
No, I haven't seen them yet.
Honestly, it doesn't matter if you've seen them because they need to be heard to be believed. Beats has developed the most revolutionary sound drivers in the industry to produce the deepest, most richest, most rumblest, most badass bass possible, all while tweeting out the highest of highs and middest of mids. The entire spectrum of sound tickles your eardrum in what I can only describe as the most sensual and seductive experience my brain has ever processed. In essence, these headphones make sweet, sweet love to your ear pussy like you're on a gaming honeymoon.
So what other features does he think have?
Yeah. I was getting to that. Other wicked sick features of Beats by Dr. Disrespect include the ability to call the police with a push of the button when an anonymous asshole sends you a death threat. Easy switching between multiple audio channels to monitor what's happening in other rooms of the house in case you want to make sure your wife isn't cheating on you with a fan member. And of course, and this is my favorite feature, the headset also comes with a 12 megapixel camera that lets you film your excursions into public restrooms when duty calls and your Twitch viewers demand more content. And let's not forget the behind-the-ear design that preserves your expertly sculpted hair even Michelangelo would be jealous of. I can't say enough good things about these headphones, and for our viewers listening who are interested in picking up a pair of these bad boys, just visit www.beatsbydrdisrespect.com/BOG podcast and receive a 3.6% discount on your order. Hey Xizor, are you going to order a pair?
Well, I don't know. I kind of got these Astros.
You know what? They might not make them in your size, so shush your face. But I'll keep you posted on further developments. Be like me. Get to the tippity top of the gaming mountain and become the sleazy 70s muscle cock you should be. Buy a pair of Beats by Dr. Disrespect soon, today, right fucking now. Go on, scram.
So the next game that I didn't play until this week, but you played it a while back. I think we talked about it briefly on the podcast. Onrush. So give me your little spiel on Onrush and what you think about it.
So originally I thought Onrush was going to kind of be a spiritual successor to Blur, which is like a more realistic kart racer type game where you have your car and you pick up power-ups and you shoot them out of the cars and stuff. But no, this game is basically like a weird team racing game that I would say is similar to Overwatch in the sense that you have different cars that are just kind of like different characters and they have different special abilities and all this other shit. And it is just the most shitty mobile-esque type game that you can get on a console. It's just a piece of garbage. It is not fun. It's just shit. Absolute shit.
So I found the game surprisingly fun. I mean, it's not great. Like this is not a hill I'm going to die on. But I guess in lieu of like not being any like interesting or unique racing or combat racing games out there, I was kind of enjoying just fucking around with it. I mean, it's not great overall, but there's a cool foundation here for what could have been a better racing game if they would have thrown some weapons into the mix, I think. Because you just have too many passive abilities. Like, yeah, you have all these different car classes that have their own abilities, but most of them are fairly similar or don't really play out in any interesting way a lot of the times. I did enjoy like running over the sort of fodder motorcycle enemies are almost like creeps in a sort of MOBA game. They have these like fodder enemies that you hit to get boost or nitro or whatever. But the game feels more like Burnout to me than anything.
Sure,
really.
Okay, yeah, Burnout.
I can definitely see the lineage to MotorStorm, which are the devs that Codemasters absorbed after Sony closed down that studio. So yeah, I kind of get a little bit of feel of MotorStorm here. But yeah, the only thing I really hated about it was the sort of unskippable stuff in the game, like the kill cam that you can't skip, and some of the end of race nonsense where it's like showing you who was the MVP, who did this thing the best, who did that thing the best. But I don't know, other than that, like it's kind of like mindless fun. I'm enjoying it. Like it's not great, but it's free on Game Pass and it's just, I don't know, I'm having fun with it. I'll probably at least play through the single player campaign. I ran some online races the other day to see what it was like, and I don't know, man. I actually don't hate it. Like I like it better than I thought I would. I don't know.
I'd rather shove a preheated barbecue up my fucking ass.
Well, you do that, and I'll go play some more Onrush. All right, so the next game that I played recently, also that came out last year, was Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn. Now, I did a whole breakdown in the What the Fuck We're Playing last week about this, so I'm not going to talk about it again. So go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear that. But let me tell you, it is hilarious, and I actually highly recommend this game because you will be blown away.
So a game that actually came out, I think it actually came out a little while ago, or either that or it was in early access, and it's basically the spiritual successor to the Roll Cage combat racing series that was popular back on the original PlayStation, and this game is called Grip. And what it is a like futuristic racing game where you have kind of like an all-terrain vehicle that can go upside down, drive on the walls, on the ceiling, and all that stuff, and you get pickups and you shoot them at your opponents and stuff like that. So it sounds exactly how it is. It's like Wipeout. It's very similar. If you like these type of games, it'll definitely scratch that itch. I'd give it a good like 8 out of 10. Like, it's a good racing game, but again, like most racing games, especially like kart racers or combat racing games, they get repetitive after a while because you're doing the same thing. It just might be quicker, like your vehicle gets faster, or you do like a higher tier and it's just a quicker game. But it's definitely a great game. It's on Game Pass. Almost all these fucking games seem to be on Game Pass.
I know. I feel like we keep talking about Game Pass.
Yeah.
All the time. Like we're fucking. Might as well get them to sponsor the fucking podcast at this point. Might as well get Microsoft to sponsor this shit.
But that kind of talks about how good Game Pass is then, because we're talking about all these like really good games.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge supporter of it for sure. So the next game on this is Wreckfest. Now, I've been playing Wreckfest for years in early access. I was an early backer of this game. I've talked about it on the podcast before. Not much else to say about it, but this was the sort of official launch was in 2018. And so this was made by the ex-Bugbear developers that made my favorite racing franchise of all time, Flat Out. And this was sort of supposed to be, once again, a spiritual successor to that series. And it's pretty decent. Like my girlfriend sent me this trailer yesterday because they're launching it on consoles finally. So right now it was only on PC, and then it looked better in the trailers than what I've been playing. I don't know if getting past like the first areas or races and maybe getting some better cars might make this more fun. But my only problem with it really was it didn't feel like you were getting a lot of wrecking racing happening. Like, sure, you're trading paint, but there's not a lot of big crashes and cars flipping over and parts flying all over the track, which is what you want from one of these. I wasn't getting that, but the trailer I saw yesterday, I don't know if they touched it up a little bit or polished it up even more for the console releases, but it looks better. So I don't know. I might go back in and give this one more look, I guess, because I've looked at it, feel like 20, 30 times over the past like 6 years. But so Wreckfest, not bad game. I don't know.
That's a shame because it does look like an amazing game. If it comes on Game Pass, I'll play it.
Yep. Anyways, moving on to an actual good racing game is Forza Horizon 4. Now, I can appreciate the Forza games from afar. I've sort of dabbled in all of them. We've talked about it on the podcast before, too. I've told my sort of things that I don't like about the series that sort of break it for me in a way. And but I still appreciate them. Still a great game. I'll let you sort of talk about this one.
I'm actually a big fan of the Forza Horizon games in general. I feel like they're some of like the best racing games that are around. Like, they look great, they feel great. Again, like these fucking checkpoint simulator games, like this is another one of those, but I didn't have a problem with it because I felt like the racing was actually fun. And you can pick any vehicle, any class, anything that you wanted to do, and you could make your own races. Like, change all the different aspects of it, the time of day, how many laps, is it muddy on the ground, like all that sort of stuff. And I liked that aspect of it. And again, it has tons of social stuff with it, but I didn't get to play with any of you guys because none of you guys seem to like it as much as I do. So I only put about like 30 hours into it, but it was on Game Pass. Again, it was basically a free game that I played for 30 hours and I enjoyed it. It's a great racing game.
Microsoft's premier AAA racing game for free on Game Pass last year. That was pretty remarkable. That's really the only reason why I played it. But in the future, come on, Forza Horizon devs. Fucking make fast travel. I can't stand having to drive to every event on top of everything. Just drives me up a wall.
Yeah. Next game I've talked about many times, and it is Guacamelee 2, the sequel to obviously Guacamelee 1. I've raved about this franchise. It is a Metroidvania game. And the main character is a luchador, which is a Mexican wrestler, and you go about saving the world in quite funny fashion. It has great and funny writing to it, and the gameplay is really challenging. There's parts that basically break your fingers trying to get through some of these parts, because you have to do all these combo moves, and you got to dart across here and double jump there and jump off this and bounce off that. So it could be a bit tough for people that aren't used to these type of games, but I highly recommend this game top to bottom. It's a lot of fun. You can beat it in about 12 hours. The first one you can beat about 8 hours if you want to catch up on the story. Guacamelee 2, thumbs up. Great game.
So the next thing I played last year was Destiny 2, the Forsaken expansion. It was that one brief moment last year where I sort of got back into Destiny for a second. I played the Summer Solstice event, and then that sort of rolled into the Forsaken expansion. And it was really fun. I had a good 2 months with Destiny, but the grind became too much, and I eventually bounced off of it. But yet another great expansion in sort of the way that the Taken King was for Destiny 1. Just a really good addition to the game.
Next game is another RPG that I actually started playing last week, so I am very much behind, and that is the long-running Dragon Quest series, and the newest one is Dragon Quest XI. I played it for about 10 hours, and it's good. It's a good Dragon Quest game. It's just they haven't moved past the frameworks of the previous games. It's the same. You see the same enemies, the same structure to how you level your character, same weapons. It's just because it's next gen, it looks pretty good. It doesn't look amazing, but it looks pretty damn good. Plays really well. I don't like the music in any Dragon Quest game. I've never liked the music, so I'm almost tempted to just turn it off. It's silly at times. The characters aren't always that likable, but still, it's like an RPG, and I love RPGs. So I'm going to see it through to the end. I'll have to give a better review when I'm done it entirely. But my first impressions of this game are they need to change the formula a little bit. It just feels like it's the same thing. It would be like Final Fantasy just staying the same way it was when 5 and 6 came out. Never mind Final Fantasy 7 kind of redefining that, if they just stayed at 5 and 6, like the old school Super Nintendo Final Fantasies, and they just kept remaking it, making it look better, bringing it to the next generation, but they don't really change the core mechanics of the game. So right now, I think if you're looking for an RPG, there's better ones to play, but it seems good enough for right now. It's a tough thing to sell right now when I haven't beaten it yet.
So the next game we both played, you played more recently than I did, is Spiderman for the PS4.
Woohoo.
Now, we've talked about this on the podcast. This is one of the best games of last year, for sure.
It's actually my favorite game of last year, I think. Even though I played it this year, I think this one wins out.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick at all. It's definitely one of the best comic book games. I put this right behind the Arkham games. But we talked about this a couple times on the podcast. No real need to go back into it. If you have a PlayStation 4 and you're sort of, the Avengers kind of wrapped up with the movie, you want some more Marvel goodness, this is definitely what you should be playing.
For sure. The storyline alone, I loved it right to the end. If they made that into a movie, it'd be awesome. But definitely recommended. Now, if you're looking for a local multiplayer couch co-op game where you want to have a lot of fun, you want to yell at your friends or loved ones, and you just want to whittle an afternoon away, having a great time, you want to play Overcooked 2. Just like the first Overcooked game, number 2 is just as good, if not better. Some of the stages are really difficult, but definitely a fantastic multiplayer game. You can play this game by yourself, but it doesn't make sense to. It's just you have to play with at least another person. It's better with 3 or 4. And for those of you who don't know what this game is, basically you take control of a chef. You're in a kitchen and orders come up on top, people are ordering from the restaurant, and you have to make those orders. So you look at the picture and it'll be a salad that has lettuce, mushrooms, tomatoes in it. And then the next one that comes up is a salad with lettuce, chicken, and something else. And what happens is you have to run around the kitchen, get the ingredients, chop the ingredients, prep the ingredients to cook them on the stove or put them in a boiling pot or whatever, and get them all assembled on the plate and then out as fast as possible to get a higher score. And eventually the levels get really difficult because you're not in like a regular kitchen at that point. The kitchen's like breaking apart and moving around. There's conveyor belts. Sections are blocked off so you can't get to ingredients. Somebody has to throw you the ingredients across the level and you got to catch it and chop it. And it's absolute chaos, but it's fucking hilarious. And it brings out the worst in people, but everybody just wants to beat the level, so you gotta forgive them. But everyone's swearing at each other, pushing each other off their chairs, like throwing controllers around. It's a great time. To me, that's a great time.
Yeah, sounds fun.
You gotta play it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the first one on Game Pass or whatever here pretty soon. All right, so the next game I played, I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan, and they sort of wrapped up this modern Tomb Raider trilogy with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I think overall, this was, story-wise anyway, it was the weakest of the three games. Definitely a really uninteresting storyline, but, plays pretty much the same as the other ones, as you would expect. But there's something about this game that just sort of had an old-school Tomb Raider feel to it that I just couldn't quite place. I remember the sound effects were really amazing. The sound design overall was really good. Normally, it doesn't stand out to me in a lot of games because a lot of games sound good, but there was something about this game that just sounded really good to me. But yeah, I was just getting these really weird PlayStation 1 Tomb Raider vibes from this in a way that I weren't with the last two. And you could make the argument that this is maybe the best of the three. I think I still like the first one the best. But I don't know, this game did something that the other two didn't, and I just can't quite put my finger on it. And so yeah, if you like the Tomb Raider games, you'll like this one. It's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's I think, is it still available on Game Pass?
Yeah, it is. It's still there on Game Pass. Isn't that hilarious though? It's still, all these games are on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's funny. So yeah, Game Pass, the thing that you buy if you want to play all the games in 2018 that weren't Sony first party exclusives. And so the next game I played actually this year, a little bit dicking around throughout the year, was Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now we all know what Assassin's Creed is. There's no reason to go in depth on this. I've played 20 hours of it and I just bailed. Not because it's not good, but because it's just more Ubisoft. There's just so much shit shoved into this, and the fact that like you can't complete certain story beats in this and quests until you reach a certain level. So they almost want you to grind a little bit. And I'm the type that's usually doing a lot of everything anyway, so it was never really a problem for me. But yeah, it's got everything you want from an Assassin's Creed game. It's definitely the best Assassin's Creed game they've made, but I just played so much of Origins that I just can't. I'm just done right now. I don't know. I can't do any more Assassin's Creed right now. So it's a really fantastic game. Totally recommend it, but just can't stomach any more Ubisoft open world shit right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll get around to playing it too, because it just looks like a great game. But like you said, burnout on those games, man. Like it's just the same shit over and over and over again. So the next game is yet another RPG, because it seems like that's all I fucking play. They fucking take hundreds of hours to beat. And this is actually my favorite RPG of last year, and that is Divinity Original Sin 2. If you played the first Original Sin, you're going to like the second one. But they changed how the combat actually works. And I would say I like the second's combat system better, but it is a lot more difficult. For those who are interested in this game and don't know what it is, basically I would tell you that it's like old school Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale type of game mixed with like XCOM a little bit. So you have like a party, you have so many action points to move around, and you have spells, and there's environmental stuff that you can blow up and throw at people and catch them on fire or do whatever. So there's a lot of tactical stuff that you can do in this game, but the writing is really good. The story's fun to go through. Lots of stuff to consider when you build your characters out. Just really amazing modern like RPG, like tactical RPG that they only used to really make back in the 90s, early 2000s. So if you're looking for something like Baldur's Gate, when Baldur's Gate 3 is coming soon, and in the meantime you can play the Original Sin series, Original Sin 2 being one of the best RPGs I've played.
Yeah, I actually rented the first one a couple weeks ago. I haven't talked about it on here because we Me and my girlfriend only played it for like a handful of hours, but I got it because of the co-op, because it has like the co-op feature, and I thought that was like a really unique thing to have in an RPG. I don't know too many co-op RPGs that have ever been released, so I thought maybe we would sort of try this. I've been wanting to try it for a long time just because of the co-op. It seems like a perfect sort of girlfriend game because my girlfriend's into RPGs and stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't know if she was really digging it, so we might try it again one more time, but I don't know. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty unique, so yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I forgot that there's the co-op. Like you can play co-op on the couch or you can play online, and definitely it is a very unique feature. And I wish I had someone to play with because it'd be a lot of fun to go through the game strategizing on how to like tackle things and do certain stuff. I think, I don't know, if you could play with your girlfriend, I think it'd be a great game to play because it really gets the mind going and you get invested and it's fun. It's almost like a board game.
Yeah, she wasn't super drawn to it at first. I'm hoping to maybe give it another shot, but I wouldn't mind trying one of these with you at some point. I don't want to drop a ton of cash to buy one of these, but if I could get one on the cheap, I wouldn't mind trying the co-op with somebody like legit.
Well, if it's cheap or if it comes on Game Pass, I'll definitely play Original Sin 2 with you. It just takes a lot of time. Like it's like a 60-hour game.
Yeah, it would be a huge investment. Yeah, it would be a huge investment. But I would like to give it a shot. So last year we also saw the official release, Gwent, the Witcher card game. Now, as you guys know, I'm a huge Witcher fan. I enjoyed playing Gwent, which was the collectible card game inside of Witcher 3. And so when they announced that they were doing a separate Gwent game, a collectible card game in the style of Hearthstone and stuff like that, I was all about this, and I was playing it in beta and alpha and stuff like that. And by the time it came out, I'd sort of played enough of it. I didn't have like friends that were playing it. I always wanted to get some of my friends into it. No one's really into collectible card games. Super fun. I love it a lot. I don't know if I would say it's better than Hearthstone, but I like it better. I just like this style of game. And yeah, I played it for a while. I've been wanting to jump back into it because they just released some kind of new expansion or a big patch. But it's one of those, I love collectible card games, but I get so addicted to them. And it's always one of those things where I spend too much time playing it because it's easy to just do one more game, one more round. And I always want to like play it enough to where I get good at it, but I also don't want to play it all the time because I want to play other games. So I'm never like great at it. So eventually I just peter off of all these collectible card games because they're just like in this weird state where I'm oddly obsessed with them, but then I know it's like a weird addiction that I don't want to touch. So I haven't played it in a while, but Gwent is super fucking cool if you like that kind of thing. And then from there, we move into the biggest game of the year, Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, you said you like Spiderman more than this?
I did because Spider-Man was more digestible. I felt like with Red Dead 2 is amazing. There's no question about it. Amazing writing, characters, it looked beautiful, everything. I would say, yeah, it's the game of last year, but it wasn't my favorite. I didn't have the most fun with it. I did enjoy it, though.
Yeah, well, for me, it was my game of the year for sure. God of War would have been my game of the year last year if it wasn't for Red Dead. But, oh man, I spent like 3 solid months. That was the only thing I played was Red Dead. I wrapped it up in January of this year. And between the online and player, the characters, like Arthur Morgan is one of my favorite video game protagonists of all time. Just an incredible experience. Like, no one does open world games like Rockstar does, and they just fucking delivered on the single player portion. Now the online portion, completely different story, has been an ongoing disaster and is very uninspired. We did have a lot of fun with it there for a while, like we always do our dumb shit in a Rockstar online joint. But yeah, overall, if you're picking up just for the single player, just an incredible game. Like one of my favorite games of all time. Top 5 all time for me.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with this game. Like if you're gonna buy some games to play, like this is it. And it takes such a long time to play, and you're investing in it, and you just roam around for hours. Like this is good money. It's good value for money. Right
yeah,
here.
and we don't have a lot of Western games, where you get to play as a cowboy out in the Wild West. And so it's just a really novel idea. And on top of that, it's just a really unique thing. And I'm just glad it exists because it's so fucking amazing.
Yeah, don't disagree at all.
And then we got Fallout 76. Now, I've played 6-ish hours of this, I guess, roughly. I only played it for like one day, one afternoon, and then bailed because when it launched, it was just a complete fucking disaster. And no one else picked it up, and I've already told the story about the collector's edition, and we've talked about how disappointing this game was on the podcast. No reason to sort of elaborate on it once again, but I don't know. What do you got to say?
I bounced off of it after a couple hours. We didn't even get to play it together, did we? I don't remember.
No, I didn't play with anybody.
No, like I played the beta, and the beta I think was like at least a week before it was coming out, and I was like, nah, dog, this is a piece of shit. Like, it's not ready. I hate these fucking games that want us to test it for them, and it's not even ready, and they'll just fix it over years. Like, no one's playing this fucking game for years. Fuck this game. This is one of the games that last year pissed me the fuck off, and it's pissed me off again.
Yeah, I have some friends that are actually jumping back into this, and they say it's actually kind of fun now, but I don't know. I still have it, so I'll try it again at some point, but yep, not worth talking. This is just the only blight on Bethesda's sort of track record for me, and I'll forgive them for it. I'm not too upset about it, but yeah, it was definitely a disaster.
Yeah, that preheated barbecue I was talking about, I'm going to shove it straight up my ass again. So moving on from asshole barbecues, this one was a surprise hit for me last year. Again, it came out on Game Pass, so I got to play it for free. But when I first saw it come out, I was like, maybe I should buy it. And then when it, like I said, when it was on Game Pass, like, of course I'm not going to buy it. So, and that is Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. Now, it's a mouthful. It doesn't say what type of game it is. It sounds ridiculous. But basically what this game is again, it's another one of those like RPG, tactical, cameras over top of your characters type games. And it's similar to XCOM, where you have movement points, so you can move so many squares, move around. You have action points for when you shoot. There's a cover-based mechanic where when you hide behind stuff, you get partial cover or full cover. There's hit percentages, like whether or not you can hit somebody when you have higher ground or if you're further away and stuff like that. So it's very tactical. But the story itself is interesting because it's a different kind of world that I've never really experienced in a game. The characters are like mutants. So think of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's basically what it is, like humanoid mutants that live alongside humans, but it's also in a post-apocalyptic setting. So something happened, you don't really know about it until the very end. Something happened that like killed a bunch of people off. Everyone's living in rags and strapping tires to their bodies and stuff like Mad Max. But there's also these like animal people that live amongst us. And there's like a great mystery that's trying to be solved in this thing. And there's also people that have like psionic abilities similar to what XCOM had. I absolutely recommend this game. It was a lot of fun. Took 12 hours to beat. I think you should play it because I don't think you've played it yet. But I love this game right to the end. It was one of those games where I enjoyed my time with it and wanted to play a little bit more, and then would just come back to it whenever I could.
Yeah, it's definitely been installed on my hard drive, and I keep hovering around it as I'm looking for things to play each week. And like I said before, my girlfriend likes tactics games like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff like that. So we're going to give this a shot at some point, maybe this week, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely on the list of things to do. So the next game that came out last year was Darksiders 3. Now, I picked this up this year. I'm playing through it a little bit earlier in the year. I actually just rented it this past week. I'm hoping to get back to a little bit more of it tonight. There was just something about it. I love the Darksiders franchise. Fucking loved it. 1 and 2 were great, even though they're kind of different. And 3 is kind of the same thing. It's made by sort of a lot of people that made the other two. It's a smaller team this time around. You could definitely feel that in the game design. It was definitely game design 101 in this game. Like a very sort of play it safe kind of game. Nothing unique or special about it. But I don't know, it was just something, like I said before on the podcast, something like comfort food to it, man. It was just, something about it was like fun enough where I just wanted to keep playing, and that's why I rented it again. I keep waiting to see it like on sale somewhere or something. I haven't ever seen it sort of drop in price to something I would feel like spending money on, but I don't know, man. It's not bad. It's not great. It's definitely not as great as the other two, and it's kind of disappointing in a way because it's not. This was a franchise I thought it was going to be something we would continue to enjoy for many years, and they even have a new one coming out that looks even more different and weird. So I don't know, but Darksiders 3 kind of recommended. I don't know, pretty fun, not great, not bad either. So the next thing I played last year, which I've actually spent more time playing this year, is Insurgency Sandstorm. Now, this is that game I've talked about on the podcast before. It's a first-person shooter on PC. It's a sort of, it was in an early access for a while. It's very sort of Battlefield-y in the multiplayer side, but it has like a really fucking awesome co-op mode unlike anything I've ever played in any other game. And they keep sort of changing it up. Now they have like hardcore co-op servers, and they did some kind of weird Left 4 Dead thing where the enemies were almost like zombies a few weeks ago. So I haven't jumped back into it too much recently, but Insurgency Sandstorm is a really fucking dope shooter on PC, and it's worth checking out. You can usually get it for around $20 or so. And like I said, one of the coolest co-op modes I've ever played in any game.
So we basically made it through the entire list. But there's one more game that I wanted to mention that I was really looking forward to, but it was announced to come out in 2018, but it didn't. It still hasn't even come out this year. I don't know if it's ever going to come out on consoles, but I've put a lot of time into this game on the PC, but I'm actually just waiting for like the console release of it. And it's an action RPG called Grim Dawn. So this game is basically like Diablo franchise. It's like the Torchlight series, top-down isometric action RPG where you collect gear, you level up your skills, put attributes in your strength and dexterity. And I love these games. Like, action RPGs are one of my favorite genres, and the Grim Dawn game is like again post-apocalyptic. Like, it's just like kind of an overdone setting at this point, but it's very unique. It's not exactly like Diablo. It's different enough that it feels a lot different. It's a lot of fun. I was waiting for that to come out, and I'll probably wait forever because it's never going to come out on the console. But I know that you don't love action RPGs because it took a while for you to even try Diablo 3 when it came out. Because you'd always say like, oh, it's like a clickety-clack game where you're just clicking and
yeah, I can't stand
shit.
playing them. The thing I found out, the thing is I can't stand playing them on PC. I can't stand games where you move the character around by clicking on the map. When you play Diablo with a controller, it's way fucking better in my opinion. Like, I know some people disagree. Like, the controller for Diablo 3 is just way fucking superior to playing it. And like, I don't understand why they never even let you have the option to play with a controller on PC with Diablo 3, because I would maybe pick it up again on PC to play with some other people. But yeah, not my favorite style of game, but I think having a controller is definitely the key for me.
Well, the reason why they didn't let you use a gamepad on the PC is because the game mechanically worked for a keyboard and mouse. If you added the gamepad, it would have given an unfair advantage or disadvantage. I think it'd be more advantageous to have the gamepad. But that's,
yeah, so you could do the dodge with the
you could do a whole bunch of stuff. You have like amazing control of your character when you don't with the mouse. You're just clicking and it's going in those directions. Whereas with the gamepad, you can go in any direction anytime. So they actually rebuilt it sort of for the console so that it would support the gamepad. I've played both games extensively, like both versions, and they do play slightly different. Like, they feel different. So that's the reason for that, basically.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree that I enjoyed having the gamepad over the keyboard and mouse. That's the more definitive version, in my opinion, the console version. Plus, you can play co-op with 3 other people.
Yep. So, to wrap it up here, best games of 2018 for me were Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, and Spiderman. Honorable mentions were A Way Out, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and even though it didn't grab me totally, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Worst games for me would have been Metal Gear Survive, although I still need to play a little bit of it, Sea of Thieves, and Fallout 76. So what about you?
For me, games that I loved last year were definitely Guacamelee 2, amazing indie title, Spider-Man, absolutely, Overcooked 2 for the co-op and fun times, Divinity Original Sin 2, one of the best RPGs I've ever played in my life, Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. I highly recommend that game. It's like a sleeper hit that I absolutely loved. And of course, like Red Dead Redemption 2. And I don't doubt your recommendation of God of War, which is coming in the mail. So I'm sure that'll join my list after I finish that. Biggest disappointments of last year, Dynasty Warriors 9. Absolutely, that was a horrendous piece of shit. But then you would say, oh, all Dynasty Warrior games are a piece of shit. That's okay. Your opinion. And Red Dead Redemption Online, and absolutely Fallout 76, that piece of shit abomination, that fucking game.
So that's 2018 wrapped up.
Before we get into what we're playing this week, I actually just had to answer the door, and it's relevant and on topic. I just got my God of War. It was delivered straight into my hands.
Oh, baby. So now you're gonna have to shut the podcast down and go play it. Not really.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll play it while you're talking.
Okay, that makes sense.
So let's see what we're playing this week. I'll let you start it off. What have you been playing?
So me and the gal, we fired up What Remains of Edith Finch. Now this was a game also on Game Pass that I'd actually wanted to play for a while. She had it on her PS4 because I think they gave it away for free at one point. So we both kind of wanted to play it. We just never got around to it. So I'm like, let's try this. And it's basically a first-person walking simulator developed by Giant Sparrow and published by Annapurna Interactive. But you play as Edith Finch, last of the Finch family line, which has a perceived curse that leads to all family members of each generation dying in strange and unusual ways. So Edith basically returns to her family's home following her mother's death to explore the house they abandoned years ago. She learns about her relatives and their deaths by sort of visiting the various rooms of the house where they have these little shrines laid out, almost in memorial to members of the family. But the game is basically a linear series of one-off experiences that reveal the unique and dramatic events of the family's history and their deaths, all narrated by Edith. I think they intentionally took some creative liberties with how they revealed the individual family members' deaths so that the game wasn't this horrific bummer that players had to partake in at times, which made it feel a little bit less impactful and not as realistic or grounded as I thought this game was sort of going to be. I think it sort of undercut a small bit of the impact the game could have had. But I guess showing adults and children dying brutal deaths over and over would have made this game a huge downer. There's some bits of stuttering and frame rate drops here and there. Very easy achievements you can sort of snag off of it if you look at them beforehand. But the house was really cool looking. It's totally unrealistic. A lot of things about this game, like I thought they were really going to go for a more grounded, realistic take, and you sort of find out very early on it's a little bit more fun and lighthearted for a game that deals with death. But we both enjoyed it. It was a pretty cool little experience. You can get through it in 3 to 5-ish hours, however however long you spend sort of roaming around the house. It's not easy to sort of get off track or get lost. It's pretty straightforward affair. But yeah, we both got to the end and I really liked it. This is one of the better walking simulator style games for me. I've played a lot of them, whether it's Gone Home or Firewatch or Soma and some of the other ones I can't remember right offhand. But yeah, not bad. Totally worth playing. Something you can burn through in an evening off Game Pass. So totally recommend What Remains of Edith Finch. And then this week, I finally got around to wrapping up Ori and the Blind Forest. I beat it. Man, that game was fucking expertly crafted. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I only have 2 complaints about it, really. The first one is the one I talked about last time, where that one section they throw at you early on, I think is legitimately the hardest part of that entire game. And it's weird that that was a thing they chose to put that early on in the game without any sort of forewarning. Because there's probably 3 or 4 sequences like that where you're really tasked with putting your skills to the test and doing all these jumping things really quick as you're sort of escaping something coming after you. And that first one was the hardest one to me. I didn't really struggle with any of the rest of them. Even the last sort of boss fight, if you want to call it that, wasn't that difficult. So yeah, that was my only bugaboo with the game, was that one sequence early on that was kind of just felt out of place to me. And then
sorry, did you like the final boss?
Yeah, it was fine. I didn't think it was anything special.
Oh, I thought it was cool.
Like, what was so cool about it to you?
I don't want to ruin it, though, if someone wants to play it. I just thought it was neat. It was just really cool with the bird.
But it was, I don't know, it was kind of like all those other sequences. You just had, like, the bird chasing you in a way.
I don't know. I thought it was cool.
I mean, it was fine. But you kind of built it up to be something way cooler than I thought it was. But no, it was great. The only other thing I hated about the game is how the stomp works, where you hit down and you do that little stomp. And I hate it when you're doing like jumping and you're going through and you're just trying to control your character and you accidentally hit down on the joystick and your character just like stomps when you don't want him to. I don't know. I would change that sort of the way that works control wise. That was my only minor complaint, because a lot of times I did the stomp when I'm just trying to like ease my character through a little platforming sequence. And that was my biggest complaint, that in that really difficult section early on. But other than that, man, just a beautifully made game. Like, so good. Like, this is exactly the type of Metroidvania side-scrolling game like this that I like. And I wish there was a little bit more to it, like some more secret stuff that you could find. I don't know. I feel like it could have been a little bit deeper, but yeah, it was super great, and I'm definitely gonna be playing Will o' the Wisp when that comes out.
So as I mentioned earlier in the topic, I started playing Dragon Quest XI. And again, just to quickly reiterate, it's a modernization of almost all Dragon Quest games. It just doesn't do anything beyond what it did in previous sequels. I don't know. Like I'm only 10 hours in, like I said. We'll see what happens when I get to the end of it. It's just, I hate when they just keep using the same shit for a game and just making the same thing over and over again, the status quo. So we'll see what happens when I beat it. But
Have you seen? So, what do you think? Just to interject real quick, what do you think about that Dragon Quest Builders? Have you seen those?
Yeah, I've and there's ones called Dragon Quest Heroes, which are like Dynasty Warrior games. I've played those. I haven't played the Builders games yet because it's kind of similar to like Minecraft, but not entirely. The spin-off games are actually pretty good. The Dynasty Warrior games that have taken in like Berserk, which I played not too long ago, and that was great. The Dragon Quest, Zelda, all those like reskins of the Dynasty Warrior games are actually really good. And they put a lot of care and detail into those games to make it feel like it's part of that series. And so I could definitely recommend like the Musu Warrior games, as they're called. But I haven't played the Builders games yet, but they got good reviews. They're on my list. It's just my backlog is enormous.
Yeah, because right now it's like I can rent games from this Family Video for really cheap. Like they have a deal going on where it's like half off, and then they also have a lot of rent one get one, and so I can rent a bunch of games like really super cheap. Like I got 3 games last weekend for like $4 and some change. So
Wow.
they have some of these Dragon Quest games in there. So I was thinking about maybe just picking one up and giving it a shot. Like because like I said, they have 11 and Heroes and maybe Builders. I don't remember. I didn't really pay too much close attention. So I was just wondering if it would be like anything worth just like trying for like, a couple bucks or something like that.
I don't think you'd like it. They're not the type of games that I would suspect that you'd like, especially since they're kind of like you're cutesy.
Yeah, probably not.
On top of that, so don't bother. Probably not something you'll like, even if it's free. Just get something else. So the other game I was playing too, just to kind of get back into the groove of that series, was Borderlands 2. The Handsome Jack collection is on Game Pass for free, and I decided to fire up Borderlands 2 because it has a 4K texture pack that was released, I think, earlier this year, and I wanted to just kind of revisit Pandora, which is the world it takes place in, and just see what it looked like with 4K. It just, to me, it looks the same. Like it's really sharp and crisp, but it just looks the same because it's cell shaded. So
Yeah,
you don't really notice it.
That's why Borderlands 3 didn't really have an impact for me because it just looks the same, just higher resolution.
You mean Borderlands 2 or the trailer for 3?
Well, like the gameplay footage for 3,
okay,
basically. Yeah. It's just like, it's been like 7 years since 2 came out, right? Like 6 or 7 years. And, usually when there's been that amount of time between, games in a franchise, like you get this whole like, holy shit, it looks amazing now. But because of the art style, the cell shading that they went for with Borderlands, it's like, oh, it just looks like Borderlands again. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not what you're used to, I guess.
Yeah, and going back to it, like when we originally played it years ago, we did all the side quests and everything. So I put about 15 hours into it, and I kind of got bored because it's like been there, done that, and I didn't want to burn myself out for 3 that comes out in the fall. So
yeah,
if you haven't played it, now's the time to play it because with the 4K textures, it looks better than ever. But like we said, it kind of just looks the same. It's very close.
And then they also added that free DLC like expansion thing that sort of leads into 3, right? That you get.
But it's over with. You have to buy it now. You only had like a couple weeks to get it or a month. I actually started playing it the day after it stopped being free. So I didn't get it.
Do you know how much it costs?
$20, 20 Canadian.
Yeah, I don't know. But how did it feel to go back to Borderlands? Because I'm like a little scared that I won't enjoy it as much as I thought. Like I'm really not as excited for 3 as I thought I would be. It might be one of those things like once we're all in it and we're playing it and we're co-oping, and it's a new experience, and I haven't played Borderlands in a while. Like I might be like, okay, like I actually was ready for this. But right now my hype level is pretty low for it. I don't know.
I think the problem with Borderlands is that it's just like a run and gun. You just shoot. There's no dodge. You can't jump really high. There's no like special abilities. Like if they added stuff that's in like Rage, or something like that, where you just had like abilities to do different things other than just shoot your gun and melee, I think it would be a lot more involved and more fun. They need to add something. Because the tried and true formula of just killing an enemy, picking up a gun, trying out the new gun, shooting them, picking up shit, it's just, we're beyond that. We're way beyond that. It needs to have some sort of verticality to it.
Yeah, that's kind of been my problem with a lot of these shooters. Even though I have tons of hours in Destiny, I'm like, why isn't there more like special abilities and moves you can do with your characters? Like a lot of these first person shooters are very basic and stuff with like what they allow you to do, and it seems like you would just go full bore with the RPG elements of some of these fantasy and sci-fi shooters and just give your character all these spells and things they can do to sort of mix it up, you know?
Yeah, or just make like character builds where it's like this person has different jumping abilities. This person can kind of float in the air. This person can move around quicker. Like just give it like a build where it's focused around some sort of ability instead of just running around. Like in Borderlands, you can't dodge. You're just strafing and jumping. That's it. And I don't know. I just there's not enough anymore. 3 needs to really do something with that.
They added a slide, man. Come on.
Oh, whoop-de
slide now.
Whoop-de fuck. Like big fucking deal. It's time
for questions and
answers. Great. That's the one we're going to use.
That's it. That's a wrap.
And if you have any questions you want to ask us, have an interesting topic that you want to pitch, or want to be part of the show, send us an email at bastardsgamingnetwork@gmail.com or message us on the Bastards of Gaming Facebook group. Question number 1 comes from Eternal Sonata Jess. Asks, would you like to work in the games industry full time? And if so, what would you like to do, or what role would you like to have either in coverage or actually making games?
For me, no. So everything I've heard about the way video games are made just seems kind of awful. Like I love video games, and you think the idea of like sitting around making them and playing them all day would be fun, but I can't imagine just like working on one thing for like 3 to 5 years and, seeing it in all its various shitty forms, and I don't know, just like the crunch that they have to do to make these games happen, the overtime they work, all this blood, sweat, and tears that seem to be poured into these games that we just casually play and criticize and make fun of and shit on and sometimes even love. But it's something like I did take one computer programming class in college because I was like, maybe I'll try to be a programmer. And I got like a month into that class and was like, nope, peace out. So as far as working in an environment like that, like at an actual game studio, unless I was like a creative director and I could just tell people what to do all day and like sort of just workshop things with other people and not have to do so much of the actual making of the game as far as like just, creating stuff and programs and engines on computers and stuff like that, I think I could enjoy it, having creative control in a way over a game. But other than that, no, I've never wanted to work in the games industry whatsoever. The only thing I wanted to do was kind of what we're doing now, is just like commentary and coverage and talking about games. If I had my way, I would win the lottery and I would basically pay all my friends' salaries for however long we felt like doing it and sort of blow this Bastards of Gaming thing up to be really big, is where we could all just not work our full-time jobs and we could just make content for this, like videos and just all kinds of different like little comedy skits and other podcasts and stuff like that. That's what I would want to do, is really just sort of expand what Bastards of Gaming is, bring in more people that could contribute different things. But yeah, I would just like to talk about games and, do Let's Plays and stream on Twitch and make a lot of more comedy-centric stuff around video games. That would be what I would want to do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What about you?
I have the exact same answer, minus the podcast thing. I'll clarify that in a second. But no, I wouldn't either, because I enjoy video games, and I think working in the industry would absolutely ruin my enjoyment of every aspect of it. But it's like you said, too, like it's like a sausage factory where you're just like, you're in there just grinding everything out and just trying to get through whatever it is you got to do. Is there enjoyment in doing that? And you get whipped. And it's a thankless job, and you struggle, and you don't make that much money.
I don't know about that. I think a lot of the game developers actually make pretty decent money. Like you're looking in the range of like usually 60 to 100,000 for a lot of these people.
Everyone in the studio gets that?
I mean, there's obviously various, levels to this, just like anything else. Like, play testers aren't making that money. But if you're like a coder or programmer, you're going to be in the upper echelon. And people that have been in the industry for a while, like big names. And I mean, the people that really can do the nitty gritty technical work. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff out there recently about what these people make, and it's not as bad as you think. Like I said,
Okay.
I'm sure it varies, and studio to studio or indie things versus whatever. And I know it's like kind of cutthroat, and like if you have a game that comes out and it fails, then that's might be it for your studio. But yeah, I don't think it's quite as shit as you think it is. It's definitely a step above your average job because like I said, these people are working like a shit ton. So I don't think it's as bad pay wise as people think. But obviously that's just painting everything with a broad brush. But from what I've seen from people that are sort of looking into this stuff is that a lot of these people make fairly well.
Yeah, I would have no idea. I don't really look at that stuff, but I don't think I'd want to do it. Like I have a journalism background, but I don't want to be a games journalist. I don't want to like travel the world, look at games and play them and then like jump off and go somewhere else and write articles. It's just knowing what it's like to report and like work for some sort of news organization. It's not fun. So I would not want to do that. Like I've written music in the past. Would I want to write music for games? I don't know if I'd want to do that either because now you're writing for somebody else's idea. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I just want to be able to create art, do it the way I kind of want to do, and just enjoy the process of making that art. And I don't think I'd enjoy being in the games industry at all, really.
Yeah, having to work with like 20 to upwards of 500 plus people all trying to put their little artistic stamp on things. You know what I mean? It would just, I don't know. It seemed like you're never really expressing yourself fully a lot of the time. There's a lot of compromising and shit you would have to do as an artist in those situations. But you said something about the podcast earlier. What were you going to go with that?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing where like I enjoy doing this and it's fun. But if we had to monetize it, now we're worrying about, well, how much money is coming in? How many people are listening? Where can we advertise? People are sponsoring us and we need to do this and that. It becomes too like corporate. I know we could stay kind of like grassroots or kind of indie, cool, like we want to be like the cool kids. But like, I don't know. If this blew up and we did this full time, sure, it'd probably be fun. But I think it would come with a bunch of headaches. And one day we'd be like, man, we've lost who we are in all this.
Yeah, I mean, there's really good ways to do it. I've seen a lot of models out there for people who make podcasts and content like what we do and like what I want to do. There's a totally valid ways to do it that makes everyone happy. But that's why I was saying in my scenario, I would win the lottery. And so money wouldn't be a factor. And we could just buy all the equipment we needed, hire all the people I wanted to, and I would just spend years of my life just giving my lottery money to my friends so they can make content with me. That would be the ultimate scenario.
I'd be down for that, for sure.
So Rip the Jacker asks, Ubisoft announced its list of games that will come with its subscription service this week. Are you going to get it? And how many of these subscription services are we going to have before people have had enough of them? Now, we spent a lot of time on this podcast today specifically talking about Game Pass games. So we're obviously very on board with this kind of model. And I don't know if you saw the list of Ubisoft games that are going to be on this week. Did you see that?
No.
I mean, it's pretty much what you expect. It's just literally all the Ubisoft games. But the only thing I've sort of noticed is that like now you're probably not going to get these games free from like Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus. Like I've already seen Ubisoft pull all their games from Game Pass. And because EA has one of these too, you're not going to ever get EA games for free probably. And I don't see any EA games, I don't think.
Mass Effect might be on there.
Could be. I don't know. I haven't looked. But so now you're going to have everyone like sort of cornering themselves off where it's always like, it's like the glory days of Netflix when everyone just had all their content on there. Then people are like, well, I want a slice of this pie. So you have to pay for my service. And now we pay for all these different things like HBO Go and Hulu and Spotify and all this stuff. And I like all this stuff. I don't mind paying for it. But I'm just wondering if there's going to be even things like Bethesda has their own fucking subscription service in the future where you get all the Bethesda games, or some of these even smaller ones that you wouldn't think about. Like, I'm just wondering, is Sony going to do one of these? We've got the Google Stadia, we've got Game Pass, we've got the Uplay thing. Uplay Plus. What is it even called? I don't even remember.
Something
And
like
then
that.
and then we have Origin for EA, and it's like, I don't know. I guess I don't have a problem with any of this overall, and I would probably pay for most of them. The one hang up for me with all of this is that with Ubisoft, you're just locked in on the PC for now, and I don't want to play all my Ubisoft games on PC. Now, if you're telling me I can have a universal Ubisoft Uplay Plus or whatever it's called, and it works for PlayStation, Switch, PC, Stadia, and Xbox and stuff like that, and then I'll be on board. I'll gladly pay that $15 because if I can have access to my games and have cross save, cross platform stuff happening where, oh, I'm playing Ghost Recon Wildlands with my best friend on PC, which I'm going to do later this year, or not Wildlands, but Breakpoint, and then I can jump over and keep playing that game with like you and Magnum on fucking Xbox. Like, I would love that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a huge fucking great value of not being siphoned off on one platform. And so that's just what I want to see happen. Like, I don't really have a problem with any of these subscription services, but in terms of just Ubisoft overall, like, I looked at that and I'm like, well, I've played most of these games where I own them. And I guess this only benefits me if I'm getting your new games for $15 a month, which is not a bad idea. And there might be some months where I just pay the $15 to play like Far Cry 6 or whatever the fuck it's going to be, like that might not be a bad deal if you get access to games in that way. But I don't know if that's what they're doing. I don't know if it's just all old games. I don't know what they're doing for like brand new stuff. So it's just going to depend what they're going to do with this. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Honestly, it's not as troublesome as you'd think it is. You'd be like, oh, we're going to have all these subscriptions and you're paying all this money. Well, if you sat down and figured out how much money you spend on video games every year, it probably wouldn't be too bad, to be honest. Like, yeah, okay, you won't subscribe to like 4 or 5 of these at the same time, but you pick something like Game Pass, which has a variety of games. And let's say you love Ubisoft and they put out like 6 or 7 new games in one year. It's pretty good value there because one game in Canada anyway costs like $79. So $79, it would be like 4 or 5 months of the subscription or whatever, So and you're getting other games, not just the one. So I don't think it's too bad. It would get out of control if you wanted to subscribe to every single one. I think the value for money is probably there for that. My only thing is like I like having physical copies, but I also sell games that I don't play anymore. So I recoup some of that money. So sometimes I'm playing brand new games for like $25 or $20 and then I sell it, and at the end of the day, I only spent the $25, not the $79 because I sold it for $50 or $60. So I'm saving money that way. And with the subscription, you're fucked. You're like, if you played one game that's on Game Pass for a month, well, that's a month of not playing the 3 other subscriptions you're subscribed to, because how many games can you really play? So I could see, like, you kind of have to figure out what you're going to do. You might have to unsubscribe from some 1 month, resubscribe another month, or if it's cheaper to just do a whole year and it ends up being like $5 a month over time, because the EA one is like that, where if you did a year, it's like $35 or something, and that's pretty good. It's just, how much is it?
But like with the EA, like you don't get the brand new games like you do. Like Microsoft is the only one doing like, you can have our premier AAA titles day one just for free with Game Pass. And I'm wondering if anyone else is going to follow with that, because that'll be sort of a game changer for me in terms of all this other stuff. Because EA, while $30 for a year of Origin, and now they have like the next tier up, which also pisses me off. Like, just have one fucking thing, for Christ's sake. They don't give you like new games. They just give you like a 10% discount on new games. So it's not really, by the time the games that you want to play are on there, maybe some stuff will be like down the line you could play it. It'll be worth it. But I don't know. It's just going to depend on if they do that kind of thing with Ubisoft. Like I said, if I can play the new Far Cry or Ghost Recon by just subscribing, then okay, maybe I'm in at that point. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm a physical collector too. I don't buy, sell, and trade like that. I just collect stuff because I'm an idiot. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of factors in it. But even if you had, let's just say you subscribe to like 6 of these a month, and they're all roughly $10 a piece. That's $60, and that's probably what you would spend on a new game every month anyway. Like if you bought one just AAA title, you know what I mean? So
sure, Yeah,
it's not really that
yeah.
big of a deal.
Yeah, you can figure it out. And you're not going to be subscribed to 6. Like, that's out of control. There's no reason for that.
Well, like I said, it would just depend on what they all offer. Like if Sony does one like Game Pass and Ubisoft and EA do theirs in the same way, subscribe to all 4 of those in a heartbeat.
How many
But like
games
I
can you
said-
play in a month? I don't have time for that.
I mean, yeah, sure, but I don't know. It would just depend for me if there's like EA game coming out this month, and like sometimes you just pick up some after the fact, so it's just nice to have it in your library. I don't know. You can talk around this subject forever about justifying it, not justifying it. It all comes down to your personal preferences and how much time you have for games, the kind of games you like, and stuff like that, and how much money you have to spend on games. So yeah, it just it varies person to person, I guess.
Next question is from Jabba Juice 18, and he asks, or maybe she asks, I'm not too sure. Xizor sometimes cuts out during the podcast. What is happening there? Aliens.
So I'll let you explain the sort of technical aspect. I mean, I know, but I'll just let you explain it.
Okay, so our setup is one that has to take place over Discord because we live in 2 different countries. I'm in Canada, he's in the US. We're not in the same room. So I basically record the podcast. I record his audio signal and my own, and we both take turns editing and stuff like that. But it's because he's coming through the internet onto my computer, and I'm recording myself on my own computer. So there's no like lag or anything with what I'm doing. So when he's coming through, if like the packet of information that's being sent to me with his voice is getting lost or mixed up, or if my computer just decides for a second to just like cut out or internet cuts out or something, then his voice will come in a bit choppy. And only I can hear that. He can't hear that. So sometimes while we're recording this, I actually tell him to stop and just start again from that sentence because it becomes so bad that you can't even tell what the hell he's saying. But usually it's just like a quick cut and like part of a word or an entire word just gets taken out or something. But I'm usually judging if it's okay to just leave it as is, because it's harder to like stop the person, have them go back to the sentence, have them get back into that train of thought of whatever they were thinking about. It just breaks the flow. So I'd rather have that word just get cut out than to actually disrupt what he's thinking and talking about.
Yeah, and I think we're probably going to try to work on getting me to record things on my end at some point so that I can just send him the audio that's been recorded on my end from my computer and then combine that with yours, and then we won't have this problem anymore. But we just never done that.
Yeah, it's easy to sync up. Plus your audio, if you give it to me after you've recorded on yours, your audio would actually be a lot cleaner because I'm getting the encoded version of your voice because it's coming through the internet, right? So
yeah,
one day. Okay, so when I went and answered the door and got the God of War placed into my sweet, beautiful, soft hands, my wife's home today working, and she's not even working. I can hear the TV on. She's fucking around. I went upstairs and she's like, "Oh, do you want to have burgers today?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool. What do you want to do with these hot dog buns that have been on the counter for a week and a half? Like, should we throw in the freezer?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. Actually, I need to get hot hamburger buns too. I need to get hamburger buns if we're going to have hamburgers." So I said, let's take the ground beef and shape them into a penis and just put them in the hot dog bun and eat it. So it'd be like a hamburger hot dog thing. Hamburger dog. I don't know.
Ham dog.
Ham
it's a ham dog.
Like, it in my mind, it looks weird, but it would just be, it's the same fucking thing, isn't it? It's the exact same thing.
They have what's called bird dogs, right? Like you've had
What's
those
that?
before, right?
No, I've
It's
never
like
heard of that.
it's like chicken tenders in a hot dog bun instead
What?
of like a hot dog. So this is like,
No.
yeah, they have them places around here. It's not super common, but I've seen them enough times. I've never actually had one myself, but yeah, so this is not too uncommon, I guess. But yeah, this sounds like totally fine, dude. When it comes to stuff like this, I don't give a fuck. If it's like meat in between 2 pieces of bread, I'll fucking eat that shit all day. Like I even eat dumb shit like the fucking KFC Double Down, which was basically 2 chicken patties in place of the buns and then like bacon and cheese in the middle. Do you remember this thing?
Yeah, I remember that. I've never had it. It looks disgusting.
And then I'll just eat anything dumb like this, like a fucking McGangbang from McDonald's, man, where you take you take a McChicken and you slap it in between a McDouble, and you just have this big fucking meat sandwich of chicken and beef And then like Burger King last year had this one thing around Halloween where it's like this burger. It was basically the McGangbang, but their version. And they were actually selling it. And it was like chicken patty and between two meats. And then they had some weird like green bun. It was supposed to be some like Frankenburger thing. And it was like, I'll totally eat this dumb shit. I don't give a fuck if it's meat and cheeses and bread and shit like that. I'll just fucking shove it in my face. I don't care. Your whole idea of making these ham dogs is not that crazy to me. I'm just, how do you think this is going to turn out though?
It's not crazy to me either because it's like logically it's the same fucking thing. It's just a tube now instead of a round bun thing. I don't think it's going to fly. My wife is a bit pedantic when it comes to these things. Like it has to be presented like a hamburger. It can't be in a hot dog bun. She just cannot fathom what that would taste like if it was in a different shape.
Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. I was hoping you could come back next week and tell us how the fucking ham dogs went.
You know what? Maybe you gave me a little bit of courage. Maybe we'll just fucking do it.
Well, why not make a few normal and then make a couple ham dogs on the side for you?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'm going to do that and I'll take a picture. We'll see how it turns out. Like, I know how it's going to fucking turn out. It's going to be exactly like a fucking hamburger. It's not going to be any different other than it fits into my mouth better. And it won't get in my beard because I can just shove it into my fucking hole.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Actually, this kind of sounds better than an actual hamburger now we're talking about it.
Yeah, I think we've solved the problem with hamburgers. It's to make them fucking hot dogs.
Yeah, I don't want something that's like wrapped around my face and it's going on my cheeks and shit. I just want it like a wood chip where I just shove it in and I eat it and I swallow it. That's
Exactly.
it. So tune in next week for the ham dog extravaganza.
The plan. One last time. We get some money and get the hell out of there. That's the plan. I had a plan. I still have a plan. I ain't got a final plan yet. I have a plan. You just have to trust me. Well, you leave the planning to me. These men need our help. I have a plan. This is the plan. We're free to plan our own futures once more. Okay, let's go find these bastards before they find us and rob this store they're planning. This is all going to plan. But now, when things are desperate, we have to stick with the plan. Stick to the plan, Arthur. Just be ready to move quick. And remember the plan, all of you. Well, look at us now, huh? It could be worse. Plans change. Everything is coming together exactly as I planned. Mike and I'll sniff about, see if he knows we're here, and exactly what his plans are. What are you boys planning on doing in there? It wasn't. It was part of the plan. I think the best plan is to paddle up there silently. Yeah. I must remember to thank Home O'Driscoll for planning it out so well for us. Maybe, for somebody, this is all going exactly to plan. This is about the fact we are planning to rob a bank in his town. I had a goddamn plan! The plan. Pains me to say it, Arthur. I got a plan. This is a good one. Hope you're working on a plan there. Always. I knew you was gonna say that.